At Aviva Stadium in Dublin, the home of the Irish.
Hello and welcome to a very special St. Patrick's Day edition of Seminoles Sidelines, as I am joined by Jerry Cutts to talk a little bit about the Florida State's season opening game against Georgia Tech on August 24th in Dublin, Ireland. And Jerry, we're going to talk a little bit about the Georgia Tech football team, but the main reason we did this was we're going to have a very special guest. We're going to have John Anthony, the Executive Vice President of Collegiate On Location, which is a company that specializes in college team travel. They handle Florida State's travel from an airplane perspective. They work with various schools across the nation. And, of course, he is also the co-founder of Aer Lingus Classic, which is the football game that Florida State will play on August 24th. And a really unique opportunity to sit down and listen to John speak with you and Vera, and obviously let Florida State fans learn a little bit more about what they might experience in Dublin.
Yep, Pat, it's John Anthony is actually in addition to running team travel for Florida State's on location site. His company runs that, as well as on many other college campuses, as you mentioned. He's also the co-founder of this Aer Lingus Classic. So this is his little baby, and he's watched it grow, and he'll talk about that on this interview. But, exciting start to spring, to be able to get ready for a road opener to the season in Dublin, Ireland.
Well, and listen, Florida State will start spring practice, and really is the start of the 2024 season in earnest on Tuesday. So, listen, we're sitting here on what is March 17th. We're going to be a little less than 6 months out from the start of the 2024 football season, and that will fly by before we know it. And it'll be time for camp, and you do not want to be behind in making your travel plans to Ireland. So we are certainly glad that John is going to offer Osceola subscribers and Osceola YouTube listeners some insight on what there is to do in Dublin, Ireland that's around the game. And, of course, you and I will talk a little bit about the game itself, Jerry, because I think not only is Ireland a beautiful place to visit, somewhere I've always wanted to visit, having a somewhat of Irish background with my name being Patrick.
Is that why they call it St. Paddy's Day?
That is why they call it St. Paddy's Day. And I did not wear green. I got my Osceola shirt on, so that gets me out of that. But listen, I think it's going to be.
Well, I'm only half Irish, but I'm gonna rep that today.
How many Irish people are there where you come from, Jerry? Miami. There's probably not a lot of Irish people down there. But listen, I think it's going to chance for Florida State fans to enjoy a very fun trip, a fun place to visit. But Jerry, I think this has got a chance to be an outstanding football game that they're also going to see. You've got Florida State, which will virtually flip half its roster, 38 new players at least on FSU's roster, including a new quarterback, a new running back, 2 new starting receivers, a new starting tight end, and then, of course, you've got some guys on defense to replace 2. So it's going to be a unique it's going to be a new team. We won't know what to expect from Florida State other than what we've seen in the spring showcase on April 20th. And then you've got Georgia Tech, who really has started a trend in the right direction under first-year head coach Brent Key. They went 7-6 last year. They won a bowl game. They beat North Carolina when they were ranked 17th. And probably more importantly, if you're a Florida State fan, they return one of the top quarterbacks in college football, Haynes King, who threw for 2,800 yards last year, ran for 737. They returned a 1,000-yard back. They improved in yards per play from 28 in 2023. They improved from 115th in 2022. 2022. So it's a huge. You see a lot of improvement in the return for their 5 starting offensive linemen. So I think this has got a chance to be a really fun game, given what we don't know with a season opener. So not only do you have a fun spot to travel and get one last vacation in before the start of school, but you also have a game that could obviously be very important as the ACC plays out in 2024.
Yeah, Pat, I think you've talked about Brent Key being a good coach, and we've got a heck of a quarterback there, transferred for Texas A&M. I thought he had an excellent year last year. So quite a challenge, and it gives Florida State's coaches and players something to really sink their teeth into this spring and fall to open in that week 0 game in Dublin. And we can talk a little bit about that too, how important that is.
Yeah, well, you get the extra bye, obviously, which is big, I think, and especially with a team that's gonna kind of come together. Listen, the way they practice these days, you got to get a couple games in. But listen, I do think that I think it's got to be a chance to be a bit. You don't start every season with a conference game, although we've seen Florida State do that with Virginia Tech in the last 6 or 7 years. But obviously, it's the marquee game of the weekend on August 24th. So I think we're going to get a really good idea of what both these teams are capable of right off the bat, because this will be a huge game for both teams. And listen, both programs, Florida State's coming off a 13-1 season. I think that they have a lot they want to prove after being snubbed by the College Football Playoff Committee last season. And obviously, you got a lot of new players that are going to want to establish themselves right away and really nail down either their starting role against Georgia Tech or their place on the 2 deep against Georgia Tech. So an important game not only for the team, but a lot of individuals on what is a revamped Florida State roster.
Yes, and we'll have game day there in Dublin. That'll be interesting to see how our fans react with game day there. And secondly, it'll be the only game on TV at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of response Kirk Herbstreit gets from the Seminole fans in Dublin, Ireland. And I think if I was Kurt, I'd probably stay away from the bars in Dublin because he might not like what he gets served from a hospitality standpoint if he runs across from the Florida State, the fans that will be there. And, of course, I know you are going, and obviously we got Kurt Weiler going to help cover the game. So it's going to be here before we know it. And, I think it's timely that we're doing this on St. Patrick's Day. We put this thing together with John Anthony and, just talk a little bit about before we go to what John's going to talk to our subscribers about and viewers about, what did he talk to you about as far as Dublin, the trip to Dublin that you had not thought of?
Quite a bit. I mean, to be honest, my wife is on the interview with me because we wanted to get her perspective, and she has trepidation. You'll notice in the interview about where do I go while I'm in Dublin, and she has some anxiety. I mean, it's a lot to think about, and so I think John, and we probably have viewers who feel the same way she did. And John kind of walks her through it, and it's I think our viewers may enjoy that portion of it.
Yeah, well, listen, I think it's very educational for us to listen to, me and you included, and along with Florida State fans. So looking forward to hearing what John has to say and what we can learn from John as far as travel. I know there's some things you and I have talked about before we started taping about how you don't have to go through customs on your way back when you get back to the United States. So there's some things there that John will teach us, but I'll let you kind of lead us into that. Yeah.
Okay. So John Anthony used to own Anthony Travel. I've known him for a while, and they perform a great service for Florida State University and many other universities by organizing all the team travel. So when tennis coach or track coach needs to get his team from Tallahassee to wherever, Anthony Travel now, on location, it's called. They organize it all. They have 2 employees or more right there in the Coyle Moore Center to handle all travel. But anyway, let's switch over to John, Vera, and I doing this interview.
All right. Well, Seminole fans, we hope you find this informative. I'm sure you will. And spend the next 10 to 12 minutes listening to what John has to say about Ireland and your trip. And we'll be back once John's through, and we'll talk to you here in a second.
At Aviva Stadium in Dublin, the home of the
We're joined today by John Anthony. And John is the Executive Vice President for Collegiate for On Location and is the host of the Florida State trip to Ireland. His company is producing that trip. And welcome, John. I'm joined by my wife, Vera Kutz. And we're very interested in the trip that you're putting together, and we know our fans are excited about it too.
Well, thank you, Jerry. We're awfully excited for the trip and the game, and a lot of work's gone into it, and excitement is building. So we're ready for you.
John, I've visited your website, and you have a lot of packages put together for a variety of interests. Can you talk? Let's talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, really, it's designed to meet somebody where they are. So if somebody has never been to Ireland, we've got what I kind of refer to a Big Mac fries and a Coke combo #1 type of a trip. Or if somebody has particular interests, whether it's culinary or Game of Thrones type interest, we have that. What we have seen over the years for these games is the most common selling item is 3 cities, stay for a week and be in Dublin for the game, but hit 2 other areas of Ireland. But we also see folks that just want to go to Dublin for 3 or 4 days and just take in the game, what Dublin has to offer. So really it's there's no force feeding of anything. It's somebody wants to go to the game and is going to have a great experience regardless, but let's just, they're going to stay in a hotel. Great. Let's try to make this easy for them. What's their appetite? 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. What's their appetite? 3 nights, 6 nights, 7 nights, 1 city, 2 city, 3 cities, golf, culinary, other, so you're right. There's a lot of permutations and combinations of it, but really just, it's designed to serve the traveler with whatever they're looking for and make it easy on them and provide a great experience.
Yeah, I noticed you had a golf package. You get to play 3 different courses in Kerry and in I guess Dublin as well.
Yeah, the golf in Ireland is really better than anywhere in the world, in my opinion. And I've done it a lot. I've played a lot of golf throughout my life, and I think the golf courses in Ireland just can't be matched. So Scotland's got some great courses. Obviously, the U.S. has phenomenal courses, but the overall experience for the quality of golf courses, the fun that will be had with the caddies and having a pint afterwards, the driving around, because it's not like every course is lined up right next to each other. So we try to minimize the time on the road, but there will be time on the road. Your driver is also your guide in Ireland and will escort you to the course. You will have more fun with the drivers. It's the best golf experience, as I say, anywhere in the world. And in the Southwest, notably, if somebody hasn't played golf in Ireland, that's the spot. That's the place to go. There's just classic courses. Waterville I go to every year, and I play a tournament in Waterville every August. But it's also Ballybunion. Tom Watson referred to Ballybunion as his favorite golf course in the world. So Tralee, Arnold Palmer said, I may have designed the front 9, but God designed the back 9 at Tralee. This is as good a 9 holes as you'll find anywhere. So and over around Dublin with Portmarnock, that should be in the rotation for the British Open every year. It's a top 20 course in the world. So I can go on and on about the golf in Ireland. It's unbeatable.
So John, you were instrumental in starting this whole series, weren't you?
Yeah, the game itself is a outgrowth of a partnership we entered into with an Irish partner to put on a game every year to connect Ireland and the U.S. It's great for Irish-American relations, and the Irish, I fondly say, the only people that love Americans more than Americans is the Irish. So they're really tied to the U.S. They know about our elections. They know about our trends, our policies, and America is very important to Ireland. So anyway, we've made that connection and have put together an organized steering committee in Ireland made up of the leading business and government figures, and we've got great support from public and private sector. It's really paraded as the most successful public-private partnership there is in Ireland with what this game does. And yeah, we'll kick off the college football season every year.
So last year it was Notre Dame and Navy, and Georgia Tech was in this game just a few years back, I understand.
2016, Georgia Tech played Boston College. That was the first year that we had the role that we do now, the ownership of the organizing, promoting, and putting on the event. Yeah. So in last year, yeah, as you said, that was Notre Dame and Navy. That's the third time Notre Dame and Navy have played in Dublin. They did it in 1996, in 2012, and in 2023. And I think it's worth talking about for just a moment, because giving people an understanding. The first time they played in 1996, there were 16,000 Americans that went to the game. They went back in 2012, and that number doubled. 32,000 Americans went to the game. So that really shows that I think everybody went, had such a good time, came home, wanted to go again, and wanted to bring a friend, right? But we thought that was a record-breaking number that you'd never see topped. And then this past August, we had 40,000 Americans that went over for the game. So again, the same two schools 3 times, and the number has gone from 16,000 to 32,000 to 40,000 Americans. And I just think that shows what a great time it is and how much people want to go back. 2 years ago, we had Nebraska, and that was just coming right out of COVID. Nebraska Northwestern played, and the Nebraska administration, their fans, everybody is chomping at the bit to get back, because they loved it. So we know they'll be back sometime in the future, and they'll more than double their numbers as well.
I want to get back to Ireland in a minute, but let me ask this question. How did you put the Florida State Georgia Tech game together?
That's a great question. We are looking for really high quality teams with strong fan bases that will travel. And the ACC as a conference and the conference office is very supportive. So I reached out to both athletic directors to start the conversation. They were interested, went and visited to tell them more about it, and answer questions that needed to be addressed. And then again, the conference office helps them just with scheduling and things they need to make sure. This opens up a week in the season. So you need, everybody needs to kind of chime in and cover what needs to be done. But this was really Florida State. We did this, we announced it pretty much 12 months ago right now. And so we had put the deal together with the expectation and thought and hope that Florida State was going to be very, very good in the 2023 season, and that would build momentum. And sure enough, that proved to be the case, obviously. And Georgia Tech with a new coach, also on an upward trajectory, and that they were looking for something a little bit unique for their program that could catch some eyeballs. This game being played in week 0 attracts a lot of people on TV watching it. As you know, maybe you were going to ask me this, but we got College Game Day coming over for the first time ever out of the U.S. So it'll get a lot of attention, and that's, the schools really like that.
Yeah. It'd be good for recruiting, I would think.
Boom. Coaches love it for recruiting. Exactly right.
Not bad. Well, I had a travel question. I don't want to get in the way of the sports talk either, though. But I've never been to Ireland or the UK in general. And so when we started talking about doing this trip, I said, well, we're over there. It'd be cool to go to Scotland because I'm part Scottish. And then trying to figure out, well, how are we going to make that happen? Because we're only going for a week. And then we started saying, well, maybe we'll just stay in Ireland the whole time. And I just feel my anxiety going up and trying to figure out, well, how are we going to, how am I going to figure out what to do? So judging from kind of the way we started and what you said about figure out what you want, kind of what you want to do or what's most important to you. If you're a golfer, or you're a, castle lover or coastline lover or whatever, maybe go from there, ? In other words, help.
That was true, false. I'll just say true. It got a 50 chance to be right. Really it is. What are you most interested in? You've got Scottish roots. You haven't been there. You're a bit of a historian, maybe. get to Scotland. You don't have to make it only Ireland. As you say, you're awfully close. So you just you could even ferry if you wanted to from Ireland to Scotland, or you can get an easy flight. So
Yeah.
um, we've seen people take cruise lines from across, all the way across the Atlantic into London and then fly. I mean, there's any which way to go.
Yeah.
The only mistake would be to not go. So,
Well, that sounds
but
good.
the anxiety is an interesting point, and maybe that's why people do want to buy a package. That everybody doesn't need to buy a package. We'd love to sell one to everybody, but we don't expect that. We don't have enough inventory for everybody to buy a package. So, but it does take some of that anxiety, take some of that mystery, and makes it easy. And as I said, that's why we segment it the way we do. You don't know, most of the hotels in Europe do not have the name Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt on them, right? So how do you do the amount of time and energy you'd have to go through to figure out where you want to stay, both geographically where, and then even once if you want to be in Dublin, obviously, what is the difference of those? That's why we have the 3-star, the 4-star, the 5-star broken out the way we do.
That's great.
Yeah. And then driving in Ireland is a challenge, I guess, for us Americans.
It is on the opposite side of the road. And I will tell you, for as much time as I've spent in Ireland, I have never driven and I don't intend to. So,
No.
I have plenty of friends that do, and good for them. But back to Vera with her face getting that anxiety. I figure there's no way to put more pressure more quickly on a marriage than to have one spouse sitting next to the other as you're driving on the opposite side of the road, and you make a turn and you turn right into the traffic heading straight at you. And there's a fair number of roundabouts, as we call them, roundabouts, traffic circles over there. So you got to pay enough attention when you're just going straight down the road or when you make a turn, but when you enter a roundabout from the opposite way that we do, and then exit that roundabout onto, I take the driver and let them entertain me. Any taxi driver, any hired driver in Ireland seems like they're a professional entertainer. So they will chat with you all day long. They'll talk about their cousin Jimmy who's tending bar in Boston, and
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So John, getting back to sports a little bit, one of the things I'm looking forward to is the Irish pubs ahead of the game, on the nights before the game. Do they like to engage in talking about American football? Have they bought into it?
They love to talk about America, all things America, and they love to engage. The American football thing, depends on who you get. You definitely have some that watch NFL Red Zone every Sunday, and they're very conversant on that, and that watch some college football. And the awareness of college football has really gone up because of the games we're doing every year. So you'll see that, but I want to stress the first point you made there. Do they want to engage? Yes, yes, and yes, and it will be the most enjoyable part of your time in Ireland. It goes back to that conversation I just said you'll have with your driver. Take that times 3 once you get into a pub. Dublin pubs are fantastic. Everybody's got their own favorites, but if you get out of Dublin, the smaller the town you get into, maybe even the better experience you'll have in a pub, because they really, not only are they willing to engage, they expect to engage. If you're in a smaller village, smaller town, they'll know you're not from there. They'll pretty easily know you're American, especially if you're wearing the garnet and gold. They'll figure that out. They may have a Florida State hat up in the background of a bar by the time you got there, because other people already came through and sat there for 5 hours with the bartender, just wanted to leave something to leave behind to celebrate. So they love chatting with Americans.
It's awesome.
That sounds like fun.
It is.
Do you have any more questions?
Well, that was the main thing. I'm just trying to quell my anxiety, but I'm excited too. 100%. So it's nice to know that you guys there are a lot of options to choose from.
Well, I think
We've got our number here. Just call anytime. We can talk.
Okay.
One of the other really nice things, when you're flying back to the US from any foreign country, you go through customs when you land, which generally then if you're connecting in a city to fly, say to connect into Tallahassee, for instance, you got to get your luggage, you got to clear customs, then you drop your luggage again. And it's got a little bit of anxiety to it. In Ireland, it's the only country outside of North America where you can get into the US. You clear customs in Ireland. So when you're at the airport in Ireland, as I say, it's just due to this unique special relationship between the US and Ireland. When you're in the airport, once you get it, you've done all your checking in, you clear customs, and you are technically on property of the United States of America then when you're still in Ireland because you've cleared customs and you're on your way. So when you land in the US, it's just like connecting whatever, New York, Atlanta, Tallahassee would be the same as Dublin, Atlanta, Tallahassee. So
That's
of course, I have to
great.
say Aer Lingus is our title sponsor. So you can get a nonstop flight to Orlando or Miami, perhaps without stopping or connecting at all. But regardless, you don't have to clear any customs when you land in the US. It's just like a domestic flight.
What's great about that question that she asked and expressing her anxiety is I suspect a number of our listeners will have that same feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. What do I do?
It's not, don't. And yes, I've been to a lot of places, but Ireland's as easy as there is in the world. They're speaking English. The signs are in English. The only English speaking country left in the EU since Brexit, the UK is out of the EU. So there's no, I love all the countries in Europe, but you don't have language barriers. You don't have big cultural barriers. This is really, really easy and enjoyable.
I noticed in reading the site that you have a welcome package.
A welcome event. That'll be a lot of fun. That is not your embassy suites cocktail reception with a plastic cup. This will be a very fun, very festive occasion. The people will be glad they're there.
That's great. And then you have a tailgate party too. That's an optional package for whatever it is you do, right?
Yeah, that's a hospitality package. That's really if somebody wants everything taken care of. They don't do tailgating over there like we do in the US. There's no parking lots around the stadium. So for somebody that just will be more comfortable getting in the area of the stadium well in advance and wants food and beverage and whatnot, little entertainment, it's there. On the other hand, if you are wanting to stay in city center, the stadium is less than a 2-mile walk from city center, or you can take a taxi or something. But it's a very pleasant stroll. It's in a beautiful neighborhood. There are pubs all the way along the way. No Irish person would ever take a ride to the stadium from city center. They would just walk. Make a day out of it. Take your time. College game day will be in city center in Dublin. So it'd be pretty easy to watch game day for a while and then start making your way to the stadium. You mentioned earlier the pubs around there. Stop in there for your pregame enjoyment and have an authentic Irish experience. But then you'll want to be in the stadium at least a half hour before kickoff. We have some really cool entertainment that takes place when the teams vacate the field after warmups and before they come back. It gets the energy going in the stadium. It's pretty cool. It's not like Chief Osceola, but it's pretty good.
Close.
Well, I think they're trying to bring the Chiefs there, so that'll be fun if they got to go.
Yeah.
And then do you have any other questions?
I think that's it. I just gotta figure out what we want to do. But I'm excited. Like I said, I am excited.
Just pull the trigger soon before the best stuff is gone. So
Yeah.
Obviously a number of hotels have filled and sold out already, but you really want, especially in Dublin for the weekend of the game, I strongly encourage you to stay in city center. Even if you don't want the 5-star, 4-star, yeah, city center will be more expensive than outside, but you won't need transportation at all. You'll walk everywhere. You will be surrounded by game fans.
Yeah.
You'll have it will be well worth anything you need to spend to stay in city center. And those will not be available here in another month or two. So I would encourage
Wonderful.
you to go ahead and make that selection and move.
For our listeners, what is it that you love about Dublin itself? What would you recommend while there?
Good question. I would say the number one thing I love about Ireland in general and Dublin is the people. What I said earlier, get in conversations with locals, go into a pub and talk to them. You'll love that. Outside of Dublin, next thing I would say is just the countryside and the beauty of Ireland. In Dublin, you're not going to see that as much.
Right.
But if you can get outside of Dublin, I would say that. Thirdly, Dublin is a really high energy European center of commerce now. Ireland has got the global headquarters or European headquarters for almost every tech company, every pharmaceutical company, every biotech company.
Wow.
And this has all happened in the last 25 years. So what used to be a sleepy older town is now very modern, very high energy, a lot of business going on. So restaurants are fantastic, fun cultural things to see and do. So it's a nice mix of the old and the new. And it's very manageable. It's not intimidating, it's walkable. It's not a large spread out city. It's a compact city center.
Cool. Well, that sounds exciting.
Yep.
Yeah.
John, thank you for taking
Yes.
the time with us.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing you over there.
Welcome back. I hope you found the interview with John as informative as Vera and I did, and it answers some of your question, maybe piques your interest in learning more. I found among the things that John talked about that I found interesting was the growth of the game over the years and how many Americans are now traveling, 40,000 to that game. I'm trying to picture in my mind what Dublin's going to look like and what the game atmosphere will be like pregame, halftime. And John sent me a video with highlights of last year's game between Navy and Notre Dame. Let's take a look at that video and we'll be right back.
Well, if I wasn't fired up for football season before this interview with John and the video from Navy Notre Dame, Jerry, I'm certainly ready now. Listen, it's going to be a very festive week in Dublin for Florida State fans. A lot going on. We just learned that the Marching Chiefs, or a lot of them, are going to go. I know there was a fundraiser to try to get the Chiefs going, and I think that was very successful. All kind of things to do around the stadium. The venue looks incredible. That was one of the things I was impressed with last year when I watched the Navy Notre Dame game. The field was immaculate. I think they had a little bit of rain during that game, and I don't know what the I don't know what the weather will obviously be like on August 24th, but certainly it sounds like an exciting trip. It's going to be an exciting game, and very appreciative of John and what he was able to share with us about his company and about the game itself.
Yeah, it's they say in Ireland it's a little bit like Florida. The weather can change in 5 minutes, so dress appropriately for potential rain at any time. But there's it's right in the city center, which is a good neighborhood. And what John told us on that interview is that your pregame tailgate party is really going to be in the pubs that lead up to it. And so it's a short walk to the stadium. And as he mentioned, get there early, so 30 minutes early, so that you can see the pregame show. I'm probably going to get there an hour early so that I can kind of wander around the stadium and get a sense for what it feels like. But
and you'll be there for 3 or 4 days, so I'm sure you will have your fill of pubs by the time kickoff gets.
Yeah, I was going to say the challenge is going to be extricating my wife out of a pub to get to the game on time. But at any rate,
it's good. It's going to listen. I'm fired up for it. I was fired. We'll probably be watching it from Tallahassee, but I will certainly be checking in with you and Kurt and see how the trip is going. But it certainly looks like an outstanding opportunity for a once-in-a-lifetime experience, not only for Florida State fans, but Jerry, you and I mentioned it earlier. This is a unique opportunity for the players on both teams to have an experience that most college athletes, particularly football players, you don't get a lot of out-of-country games. It's going to be a unique opportunity and experience for the football players on Florida State's roster, the coaching staff, and their families, who I'm sure will go. For a lesser extent, will be treated like a bowl game from a travel standpoint, where you go out early, come back a day late. But certainly, I think that it's all obviously something that Florida, as you and I talked about, something that Florida State can sell to recruits moving forward. That, hey, listen, there's a chance we might do this again down the road, and you get a chance to have a once in a lifetime experience like that. Kids, some of these young men will never get a chance to go out of the country again. And I've only, when I say I'm a grown man, I've been out of the country twice, if you count Mexico and Canada, which I don't.
So, you're a good example. I'd said to you, you better, go ahead and prepare and get a passport. It takes 2 to 3 months to get it done. And as I was thinking about that, with you, every one of those players, I guess, will have to have a passport.
Yep.
So that's an interesting twist.
Well, they'll get priority. They'll rush those through. When I was at the University of South Florida, we played in a bowl, the Toronto Bowl, which and almost nobody on our staff, the day bowl selection came out, had staff or players had passports, and they had to rush us through the U.S. passport office to get us able to go play that ball game. But yeah, I think it's going to a lot of moving parts for Jeff Cupper, who just got named DFO of the year by Football Scoop. He and the chief of staff, and why is the chief of staff's name passing me by? Bruce Warwick. Bruce and Jeff probably have the hardest job in the building for this particular game. But
so what is a DFO?
Director of Football Operations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was named DFO of the year by Football Scoop, which Derek Ray was named Director of Player Personnel of the year a week ago. So Florida State just keeps on winning after this 2023 season. But yeah, I think it's going to be a fascinating start to 2024. And listen, we're lucky enough to have Aer Lingus and John's company sponsor these last couple of podcasts. And and the one thing I will recommend to people is go to Seminoles2Ireland.com. Seminoles, the number 2 Ireland.com, because as I've done my own research on this trip to Dublin, the ticket packages are not getting any cheaper. So you need to get your hotel reserved, your flight reserved. And obviously John and his crew are doing a lot to help people prepare for their trip to Dublin.
Yeah, that's the key thing is, as Vera expressed in the interview, it can be for some people it can be overwhelming trying to put all the pieces together, and you can certainly do it on your own. Book your own airfare and hotels and the like, but they're there to help you if that's what you like. And if you notice when you go, John talked about it, we talked about it, but they have everything from hotel only in Dublin for 3 days with game ticket. The golf packages, I would love to do that, but that's not going to happen. And then they have 2 and 3 day tours of Ireland to all the great spots. So, it's and like John said, you can fly in there, and if you want to go to Scotland, which is an interest of my wife's, that's easy to do. You can fly from Dublin to Scotland. It's a very short trip where you can take a ferry and still make an Irish, Scottish experience out of it.
Well, the countryside in both places is outstanding. I've spent some time watching Travel Channel stuff and documentaries on both those places. Listen, I think it's going to be a fun trip. I think that if you have the means to go and the desire to go, it would be an unbelievable, like Jerry said, 3 to 7 day trip, whatever you want to take. And obviously, John and his company are there to help you out. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We appreciate John spending some time with Jerry and Vera and updating us on what is going on in and around that football game. And listen, again, I think that people are going to be surprised at how good a football game this turns out to be. Obviously, Florida State is a preseason favorite in ACC to win the ACC. They have this tied with Clemson for the best odds to win the ACC next year. But you got a revamped roster and an improving Georgia Tech football team and a beautiful country and venue to watch a football game. So if you go to Ireland, we hope you enjoy your trip. You catch up with Jerry and Kurt Weiler while you're there. And of course, we hope you enjoy the rest of your St. Patrick's Day festivities today. Go enjoy a shot of Jameson and start get your off-season training in for the trip to Ireland on August 24th.
Hey, by the way, we get rolling with spring practice this week, right?
Oh yeah, we'll be at practice on March 19th, Tuesday, March 19th. They started, I believe, 4:00. We will have obviously a live thread that Kurt and Bob will do from practice. We will have post-practice reports. We'll have post-practice interviews. I believe Mike Norvell and Patrick Surtain are going to be available on Tuesday the 19th. And, of course, Nick and I will be talking to the recruits that show up on campus on unofficial visits to watch practice. So there's going to be plenty of football-related content coming in on the Osceola start. And, obviously, Jerry, you, Bob, Kurt, and Nick will be interviewing the coaches on Monday as they have the breakout lunch where we get to sit down with the staff and eat lunch and listen and obviously interview those guys. So you four guys will be there. So listen, it's an exciting time, but certainly, just the discussion with John and the video from Navy Notre Dame certainly gets you fired up for football season. But again, it's hard to believe we're in the already past the midpoint in March. And August will be here before you know it. So, Jerry, thank you for taking the time with John to educate Florida State fans on what they need to do.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, all.
You got better props than I do. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
At Aviva Stadium in